Once upon a time, there lived a little girl named Ma. She was the only child of Mr. and Mrs. Okoro, a kind-hearted couple who worked hard to build a bright future for their daughter. But one tragedy evening, while returning from a business trip, her parents were killed in a car accident. Ma was left an orphan at a very tender age. After the burial of her parents, she was taken in by her uncle, Mr. Ekezie, and his wife, Madam Ekezie. From the moment she stepped into their home, Mma's life changed forever. While Mr. Ekezie appeared kind in public, his wife, Mrs. Ekezie, was openly cruel. She treated Mma not as family, but as a servant, while her own children went to school, play in the yard, and eat well. Mma was forced to hawk bananas on the street. She was denied education. She was starved for some days and even forbidden from making new friends. Every household chores was dumped on her little shoulder. Yet, in her deepest loneliness, Mma was never truly alone. Each night, when she cried herself to sleep, her parents would appear in her dream, sometimes standing by her bed, other times holding her hands through the shadows. Her mother would stroke her hair and whisper, "Be strong, my daughter. Your tears do not fall unseen." Her father would encourage her, saying, "Do not let the wicked steal your joy, because even in the darkness, light is waiting for you." This nightly vision gave Mma strength. She believed her parents were her angels watching over her. Though Madam Chike tried to break her spirit, but Mma secretly found hope on the street while hawking bananas. She met a kind neighbor who taught her how to read and write. With every word she learned, Mma felt closer to the dreams of her parents once more. But as Mma grew into a beautiful young woman, her suffering deepened. When she turned 18, the marks of her uncle's first kindness fell away. At night, he began to abuse her terribly, threatening to kill her if she dares to speak out. During the day, Madam Chike still worked her like a slave. Mma's parents appeared to her again, but this time around, their face looked sorrowful. "You must endure, my child," her father said. "But remember, no secret hidden forever. Truth must be told." Soon, Mma realized she was pregnant. She was terrified, ashamed, and heartbroken. She dares not to reveal the truth of her uncle's wickedness. When Madam Chike found out, she exploded with anger, forcing her to terminate the pregnancy. On the day Mma got rid of the pregnancy, her mother knelt by her side and whispered, "You have suffered enough, my daughter. It is time for you to rest." Her father stretched out his hands and said, "Come with me. No more pains, no more tears, no more fears." Her body died that day, but her soul reunited with the parents who had never stopped watching over her. After the burial of Mma, her foster parents, Mr. and Mrs. Chike, returned home with a little grief. To them, her death was a relieved one and less a burden to carry. Unknown to them, the grave that they had forced her into did not silence her. On the night after Mma's burial, a heavy wind blew across the village. The air was unusually cold. The strange whispers echoed through the rafters of their home. The children of Mrs. Chike huddled together, frightened, and their mother shouted at them to sleep. But when the lights were put out, the youngest child began to scream, "Jesus Christ! Mommy, Mommy, she's standing there!" The child cried, pointing to the corner of the room. Mrs. Chike stormed in, only to find nothing except the chilling scent of banana, the same one Mma used to hawk. From that night, the hunting began. Each of Mrs. Chike's children began to fall sick mysteriously. They cried in their sleep, claiming a pale figures with aloe eyes that stood at their windows, whispering their names. At first, the parents dismissed it as a childish fear, but then the children stopped eating. They woke up with bruises shaped like tiny fingers on their body. One night, the eldest son ran through the compound screaming, "Leave me alone! Ma, please leave me alone!" Before everyone could catch him, he fell into the family well and drowned. The second child died weeks later after being burnt by a fire that mysteriously started in his room, though no lamp had been lighted. The third child was weakened by a brief fever. She died in her sleep after crying all night. Neighbors began to whisper that the ghost of the orphan girl was taking revenge, but Mr. Chike denied it, blaming the witches and enemies. Still, the smell of banana grew stronger in the house, filling every corner. Before Uma's death, Mr. Chikeze was a very wealthy trader, but soon his fortune collapsed. Goods spoiled before reaching the market. His lorry broke down without reasons. Business partners withdrew their trust, claiming his presence brought them bad luck. At night, whenever he tries to sleep, he heard sound of coins scattering on the floor. When he bends to pick them up, they turn into roasted bananas, dripping with blood. He became restless, losing his mind slowly. His once thriving business crumbled into dust, and poverty set in like a curse. Not only did wealth vanish, but sickness took root. First, Madam Chika developed sore that refused to heal. Her skin burnt as though fire lived beneath it. Doctors found nothing wrong with her, yet she grew weaker each day. Mr. Chikeze also fell ill. His body was consumed by a strange fever. At night, he would feel Uma's cold hands pressing on his chest, choking him slowly. He would wake up gasping, drenched in sweat, only to see her shadow standing by the window, her voice whispering, "You thought I would keep your secret, uncle." Both husband and wife were tormented with sleepless nights. Every time they closed their eyes, they found themselves back in the scene of Uma's suffering, her hawking days, her cry of hunger, the dark night of abuse. No matter how much they prayed, her presence never left them. As word spread of their miseries, people avoided the family. Their relatives refused to help, fearing the wrath of Uma's spirit. Abandoned, sick, and broken, the couple crippled into isolation. One stormy night, when the thunder choked the skies, their neighbor heard screaming coming out from the house. By morning, the house was silent. When the door was forced open, the villagers found both Mr. and Mrs. Chikeze lying dead. Their eyes was wide open in terror. The night Mr. and Mrs. Chike was found dead, a heavy silence fell on the village. Many said the spirit of Uma had completed her revenge and gone to rest, but the spirit world had different plans for her. Though justice had been made, but Uma's soul still carried the deep longing she never fulfilled in her first life, the desire to live in love, in freedom, and in peace. Several years later, in a small neighboring village, a poor couple named Mr. and Mrs. Nnamdi, they struggled to survive. They were humble farmers who worked hard yet barely had enough to eat. Their hut was old. They have small land, and most days they went to bed on an empty stomach. Mrs. Nnamdi had suffered many miscarriages, and neighbor whispered that she was cursed. But when she finally got pregnant, she cried to God and prayed, "Father, please, if this child can be the only child that I will have, please let her live." One cold Harmattan morning, her labor pain began. Hours passed, and the midwife feared she was never going to survive. But then, as the cock crowed, a baby girl was born. She was extremely beautiful, with bright eyes that seemed far too wiser than a newborn baby. The midwife gasped, "Mrs. Nnamdi, This child carries a spirit older than her age. Take good care of her. She is not an ordinary child. They named her Mma, but they never knew that the baby carried the soul of an orphan who once suffered unspeakable wicked acts. From the moment baby Mma entered the house of Mr. and Mrs. Nnamdi, things begin to change for good. Even the land that has once refused to grow crops is now fertile. Their yams has grew more larger, their cassava has multiplied in size, and even their palm fruit has ripened in abundance. Mr. Nnamdi's small farm not only feed his family but the neighboring village. One day, while Mrs. Nnamdi carried little Ma on her back to the stream, a wealthy merchant that was traveling saw Ma and stopped. He smiled warmly and gave Mrs. Nnamdi some money and said, "This child has brought nothing but peace in my heart." Similar incidents began to happen often. Strangers offer gifts, even neighbors share kindness, and opportunities opened where there had been none. It was as though Mma herself carried fortunes in her presence. As Mma grew, she began to speak words that startled her parents. Just 3 years old, she had pointed to certain roads and said, "I have walked through this path, but not with you." Sometimes, Mma wakes up from her sleep and be whispering, "Mama Chika, Uncle Chikeze, please, I beg in the name of God, don't hurt me, please." Her mother would comfort her, not even understanding what she was passing through. But what shocked everyone the most was her intelligence. Without even attending school, Mma could count, sing songs no one had ever taught her, and even recite proverbs far beyond her age. When Nnamdi finally managed to send her to school, her teacher marveled. She learned faster than any child, and she carried herself with a quiet grace that made every adult respect her. Unlike her first life, this woman knew only love. Her parents, though was poor, but cherished her deeply. They never raised a hand on her. They never stabbed her or never silenced her voice. Neighbors noticed that whenever she visits their homes, peace will follow, quarrels will end, sick people felt relief, and even barren women conceived after sharing food with her. Soon, the villagers call her Adaeze, the daughter who brings joy and honor into the home. By the time Mma was a teenage, her parents' poverty had disappeared. Her father's farm had expanded miraculously, producing so much that traders from distant towns came to buy from him. With that wealth, they built a bigger house, sent Mma to a good school, and even supported poor neighbors. Her mother, Ngozi, became known as a kind woman. At school, Mma excelled beyond imagination. She dreamed of becoming a doctor so she could heal children who suffered like she once did in her first life. Whenever she saw an orphan, she felt an unexplained pull in her heart. She gave them food, encouraged them, and promised to help them one day, though she never had spoken of it openly. Mma remembered fragile of her old life, hawking bananas under the hot sun, being denied food and crying in the night, but those memories no longer haunt her. She filled her heart. She vowed silently, "This time I will live. This time I will fulfill what was stolen from me." Years passed. Mma's blessings continued to multiply. She gained scholarship and traveled overseas for studies, and returned as a respected woman who built hospitals and schools for children in the poor communities. Her parents, who was once mocked as the most poorest people in the village, is now the honored elders. Their names forever is being remembered because of their daughter. And though no one truly understands the mystery of her life, the wise in the village whispered that she was a spirit reborn. No one had known the deep suffering but had come again to test the sweetness of justice, love, and fulfillment. By the time Emma turned 18 years in her new life, she was already known far and wide as the pride of her village. Her intelligence, kindness, and beauty had earned her scholarship everywhere she went. It was no surprise when she gained admission into one of the most prestigious universities in the country. The university was a new world, crowded lecture hall, bustling cafes, and endless activities, while many students struggle to adapt. Mma legged through it all with grace. Her lecturers admire her intelligence. She also asked questions that showed deep understanding, and her assignments were flawless. In her department, she was often called the shining star, but it wasn't just her intelligence that drew people close to her. It was her humility. While other students flaunt wealth and status, Mma lived simple. She shared her food with those who had none, tutored weaker students, and listened whenever someone needed advice. Soon, everyone from cleaners to professors knew her name. Among the many who admired her was Obinna, a tall, soft-spoken young man with a striking smile. Unknown to many, he was the son of a powerful politician, a man who knew business across the country. But Obinna was different from the arrogant rich boys on campus. He was humble, deeply respectful, and genuinely kind. He noticed Emma not just because of her beauty, but because of her heart. One afternoon, after they had worked together on a group project, he said to her, "Emma, you carried yourself like someone who had lived more than one life. There is wisdom in your eyes. I cannot explain." She smiled softly, her heart fluttering, but for reasons she couldn't fully understand, she felt safe with him. Their friendship grew into love, while other relationships on campus crumbled over money and gossip. But theirs stood very strong. They studied together, they prayed together, and they supported each other's dreams. By her final year, Emma was not only top of her class, but also the president of her department student association. She organized charity outreach, visiting orphanages and hospitals, reminding the world that education was not just for her, but for services. On the day of her graduation, she was awarded the best graduating student of her faculty. The hall thundered with applause as she stepped forward to collect her certificate. Her parents were weeping tears of joy in the audience. Obinna was sitting proudly in the crowd while he whispered to his friend, "That lady there will be my wife one day. I will never let her go." Obinna kept to his waist, just as what he said. After graduation, Obinna proposed to Emma while kneeling under a tree. Obinna said, "You are my blessing. You are the kind of woman I want beside me for the rest of my life." Emma accepted, not just because of his wealth or background, but because she had seen him in the same love and kindness that her parents had given her. Their wedding was a grounded event, attended by politicians, business leaders, and villagers. The once poor girl who had been born in a mud house now rode in convoy and was celebrated across the land. Marriage did not change her humility. Instead, it gave her the wider platform. With her husband's support, Emma built hospitals, sponsored scholarships, and created foundations to protect the vulnerable children. She became a national figure, admired by her courage, intelligence, and compassion. Her name was often in the newspaper, not for scandals, but for groundbreaking initiatives that transformed communities. Even in the midst of luxuries, she never forgot her roots. She often returned to her village to honor her parents, ensuring they live a comfortable life. Years turned into decade. Mma and Obinna love grew very strong, untouchable by the storm of the politics or wealth. They raised their children who inherited their humanity and sense of services.